Hello, my name is Myra Tanksley, and I'm recording this on February the 26th, 2018. And I am the proud single parent of a young man who has autism, high-functioning autism, who's been kidnapped by a very unjust and very corrupt system, a legal system that's very racist, corrupt, and practices injustice. And because of my advocacy for my son, I have not been allowed to see him in almost 3 years. I am African American. I am single, a Christian woman. I'm also a registered nurse since 1987. 31 years I've been licensed as a registered nurse, and I am practicing nursing. And I doubt if I abuse or neglect my son, I wouldn't be able to practice nursing. And I speak out about what has happened to my son. And I have seen him, heard him, and have listened to him describe abuse, neglect, and exploitation to me. My son's name is Marquis. He'll be 25 in April. He's very intelligent, well-mannered. He's just sweet. He's just wonderful, and I miss him terribly. He hasn't done anything to anybody, but he has suffered a lot just by all the different staff people and members in the system abusing and neglecting him, because he's nothing to them, but he's everything to God. And God will use people that other people count out. But, you know, he's a black male with a disability, so he's just a cash cow. And if they care so much about him, they wouldn't allow him, besides themselves, because people are directly and indirectly abusing my son. And so if they care so much about him, he wouldn't have to suffer abuse and neglect at their hands and at the hands of everybody in the system. And he's got a very unfit, lying, racist attorney that was appointed to be his limited guardian, because I had guardianship, but like I said, there's no abuse and neglect in our family or dysfunction. They took that away so they wouldn't have to deal with me. And that's the primary reason why they don't want me to sing, because I got 3 Facebook pages that's full of evidence. So I'm not full of hot air. I'm not delusional. My son is not delusional. But like I said, he has told me over and over again incidences of abuse and neglect and assault. And I've seen it. I actually seen him get assaulted with my own eyes. And that was God allowed me to see that, because the thug that did it didn't even know I was standing in a place where I could see him. He didn't even know I was present at the facility. But God will do things like that. And, you know, and then again, I have, you know, evidence. So I have recordings, I have pictures, and I have documents. And what I'm doing, and I'll tell you the 3 Facebook pages. The first one is the abuse and neglect of autistic Marquis Tanksley by the government. The second one is Justice for Autistic Marquis Tanksley. And the third one is the audio tapes of Marquis Tanksley, his suffering, abuse, and neglect. So the third one is the one that I most recently created. It's been maybe a year, maybe a little over a year. And with that one, I am putting actual recordings of my son's comments to me about his feelings, and I throw racism in there. Of course, racism affects every fiber. Because this country has always been a racially sick and racially ill country, and it's kind of to, you know, people that practice it and benefit from it, mostly white Americans. You know, it's just a part of America, just like baseball is, or apple pie. I mean, it's part of this culture, and it's been that way since 1776. But then again, you know, like I said, a lot of people are in denial about it. And that's why this country's going to go down. It's already going down because it's been so hypocritical. People, in God we trust, and blaming the victims and stuff. Because my son ain't done nothing to those people, neither have I. But all I've done is spoken up about things that I know that wasn't being done accurately and being done humanely and civilly for my son, just like these white parents do when they have autistic individuals that are sons and daughters. It doesn't matter whether they're teens or children or adults or whatever. But when I spoke up about it, I got slandered, and they said I escalate my son. I said, well, so who's escalating these? When the white individuals, and like I said, it doesn't matter what age group they're in, when they're having meltdowns or physical or verbal aggression, so what's the cause of that? I said, because I know they don't tell those white parents that, but they're going to tell this black mother that. But I said, well, they can't speak for my son because my son is high functioning and he's verbal. He has some deficits, of course, but he's able to express his feelings. And he's able to tell me things. I said, well, I'm going to let Marquis, people hear Marquis in his own words from his own mouth tell how he's feeling. Because I got hundreds of tapes, and some of them are so painful according to what's on there. And, just to listen to him expressing pain and physical pain and emotional pain and how the staff is abusing him and how he's being hit and beaten and assaulted and stuff. Because I'm a victim in this thing. That's why I said I vow. I know God's got it. Jesus is with him. That's the only way my son ain't dead yet. The only way I'm surviving and not going crazy is because of Jesus. Because he gives us that peace. But he said, I got this thing. And when I bust it wide open, I'm going to bust it wide open. He said, I just want you to have peace and trust me because they don't limit my power. Yeah, they're stopping you from seeing him, but they're not going to stop me as God. I can be with your son. I can heal him. I can do anything I need to do. Them evil people can't stop my power as God. They're not stopping me from protecting Marquis and being with Marquis. And he said, you just have to remember that. So, on these recordings, and they're not the whole conversations, because I got conversations with my son, when I would go visit him and watch TV with him, or sometimes it'd be just phone conversations, and they can last over an hour or so. But these are just the snippets that shows how he has suffered. He's in emotional pain, crying out to me. And it shows how much he loves and misses his mother. And I said, that racist filth, and that's what these people are, because in the Bible, God talks about a lot of sin, but he talks about a lot of injustice. So who in the world do you think he's talking about? He's not talking about people that's out on the street, the average Joe out in the street. He's talking about people that work in the illegal or the court system. When he talks about bribes, when he talks about oppressing the poor in court, when he's talking about doing innocent people wrong in court. That's who he's talking about. He's talking about judges, magistrates, corrupt courts. He's talking about lying lawyers. He's talking about court personnel, people the investigators. And the Lord told me not, he said, don't bother them evil, sick people anymore. Step back and let me handle it. But I had to tell at the beginning of this year, well, no, it wasn't. It was probably about 2 weeks ago. I called one of the racist, nasty, cowardly court investigators. Because I, of course, had filed a complaint against this lying, unfit, racist lawyer by the name of Erin Sanford. She's my son's limited guardian. And, of course, he means nothing to her but $800 and so much dollars every month because she gets his SSI check. In the meantime, he lives in poverty. He lives in a rundown, in a terrible, terrible crime-ridden neighborhood. Neighborhood so bad because it's owned by the state of Ohio. You know how they all scratch each other's back and keep the money flowing in the system. And the neighborhood so bad, the state of Ohio had to put and they're just as bad, because they're getting money off of him. But they had to erect a locked metal black gate around the perimeter of the rundown townhomes, because you ought to see it. It's got a terrible alley in the back of it. The neighborhood is terrible. The neighbors are it's just awful. But she gets his SSI check while he lives in poverty. And so, like I was saying, the Bible is full of injustice. And I went ahead, and I think it was last week, I called the last court investigator. And see, they'll do the investigations, but they have no intention of finding anything wrong, because they are cowards. They're not going to admit they're racist. All these people work in concert with each other. All of them are benefiting from people like my son, who's being abused and neglected and exploited for federal funds. And that's why God said, don't talk to that evil. Just leave those evil people alone. They're not going to send him back. I'm going to have to be the one that's going to send him back home. But I called anyway. And I let him know. I said, my son hasn't been allowed to see his own mother, a loving, supportive, professional mother. Because I go to school, and that's the reason why I haven't been able to do these recordings like I wish I can, because besides working full-time and going to school and stuff, I don't always have time to do it. But I said, I am going to do it. And because I'm going to keep them going, because these recordings are going to go all the way up to the last time I talked to my son. Now, he hasn't been able to see me in almost 3 years. And the last time he was able or allowed to talk to me was May the 13th, 2017. It was a day before Mother's Day. And I said, I'm going to do all of these. And like I said, there's hundreds of them, because this one is just from November 24th, 2012. So you can imagine all the many more that I have to make and upload. And I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and have them all the way up to the last time I talked to my son. But anyway, he's nothing but a cash cow to them. And when I called this nasty, racist court investigator, because he's nasty, I told him, I said, God is going to punish you people for what you're doing to my son. I said, because Marquis, that's my son's name, if you didn't get it the first time I mentioned it. I said, he's not going through what he's going through because he deserves it, or God thinks that, he needs to be punished. I said, because I don't know anybody that's been mistreated as bad as my son. And here he is, innocent and disabled. He has autism. And he's been treated worse than a criminal. I said, even these criminals get visits. They get phone calls and family visits or legal visits or whatever. But at least they get, I said, my son can't even see his own mother. And then I can't see my son as a mother that loves, because I love him just as much as they love their kids. And that's why I said, I'm done with this country. I said, I don't care nothing about no national anthem. And I'll tell people why I won't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. I really don't care too much for the national anthem. I said, but I can understand when people take a knee or whatever they say, at the NFL games and stuff. I said, because they're looking at what this thing means. But I can't stand up there. Now, what I'm going to look like standing up there and, just, I guess what you just recite or babble off the Pledge of Allegiance, and when it gets to the part of life, liberty, and justice for all, I can't say that, because my son ain't got no justice. And I told that guy that, even though it was in his voicemail, he wasn't there. It was President's Day, and I said, well, he probably, because they get president, it's a state holiday and stuff, county holiday, government holiday, or whatever. And I said, God is going to punish you people for what you're doing to my son. I said, because God will use people that other people count out. I said, because he's nothing to you people, but he's everything to God. And I said, Marquis ain't going through what he's going through because he deserves it. I said, Jesus is not trying to punish my son. He's not trying to punish me. I said, but he'll take this thing and use it. I said, when he busted wide open, your name will be out there too. I said, because if you think I'm just full of hot air and all that. I said, y'all all get together and sue me. I said, you can't sue me because I'm not slandering nobody. And it ain't slander when it's true. I said, but y'all slandering me. I said, because I know y'all don't tell them white parents that you're escalating your son. I said, but you don't have to say anything or speak for my son. I said, because Marquis is verbal. He's able to tell you how he feels. And I said, and I got hundreds of tapes of him telling me how much he wants to go home because he misses me and loves me. And I said, it just shows what racist filth you people are. And that's why I told him, I said, you people are just racist filth. You're that scum in the Bible that God talks about when he talks about injustice. He ain't talking about the average Joe in the street. He's talking about all you people that work in the court system. And then I told him about what I read in the Bible in the book of Proverbs. And it's in chapter 30, verse 14. And, quote, it says, there are people who take cruel advantage of the needy and poor. That is the way they make their living, unquote. And I said, you know, God is going to punish you people. I said, but I'm just letting you know that he has not been allowed to see his own mother. And I said, I know that's just rights that he has that have been denied him. But when I think about it, Marquis doesn't have a lot of rights. I mean, he can't go no place. He's being abused and neglected. They treat him like an inmate. He's in some piece of old dirty rundown, you know, one of those Section 8 townhomes that when you go in the front door and you take 10 steps, you're in the back door. Little old tiny Section 8 townhomes. You know, he don't have no family rights. He's, denied his life. You know, because my son likes to do a lot of things. And he has hobbies. I know I'm his mother. I said he don't get to watch the TV that he like to watch. He doesn't get to spend time with his mother because we play games and he likes to play basketball. He used to play Special Olympics until I allowed the government to get in our lives and stuff. And because they'll grab them in a minute. They'll grab these state agencies and county agencies and stuff. They'll grab a person like my son because they know they can make money off of them. Because I have always tried to, get services and therapies just like the white families do. You know, when you have special needs like that, and in our case, autism and stuff, those things are there for in school, education, therapies. It's in a lot of different categories so that you can receive, or your loved one that has autism can receive, the therapies and the treatments that they are entitled to receive. And usually that includes the family because autism affects the family. I said, but I'm not one of those mothers just because I'm black. And they resent that if you're black. You're not supposed to come in there and say anything. You're not supposed to have any complaints or anything like that. But see, I do another thing. I get evidence. Because they really don't like those white parents, jumping up and down about something. But they can take it more from a white person versus a black person. And so for doing that, I've been labeled, what can I say? I don't want to say an unfit mother. It's just that I escalate Marquis. And I said, well, no, because he vents to me, not because of me. And all of that's on tape. I said, I come over there, and my son would be so upset, so agitated, or they're having a sensory overload for being around them. I said, maybe if you didn't mistreat my son, treat him like a dog, maybe he wouldn't be telling me this stuff. Because you could hear my son on some of these tapes, like I said, I got hundreds of them, begging me to take him home. Telling me how much he missed me. Then he would describe and tell me about being beaten by the staff. It's all there. That's why I said none of that racist trash out there is going to say nothing to me. And I name names. I name agencies. I don't have to worry about nobody saying cease and desist. Because every bit of it's true. And I got it, all the information to back it up. I got where I have it side by side. I said, because I don't have to sit up at home and sit up and try to think about or make up evil, sick things on evil, sick, racist people. You just don't have to do that. And I don't collect evidence because I like collecting evidence. But I said, as long as we got this racist, corrupt, evil trash in our lives, then I'm going to do that. And I look forward to the day that God will get all that garbage out of our lives and I won't have to record. I won't have to take pictures. I won't have to, get any evidence. But right now, I got plenty of it. And that's why ain't nobody going to say cease and desist. So on this last page, the audio tape page, like I said, I'm going to just put all the recordings out there. And they're not the whole conversation. They're just, comments that my son is telling me about his feelings, about what he's going through, what has happened to him. I mean, he has described incidences of assault and abuse and neglect. He tells me how much he misses me, how much he wants to go home, how much he loves me. But see, they would try to blame that on me. I'll come over there and my son would be so upset, he'd be crying. I would find him crying. And just think of me as a mother. As I bet ain't none of that trash would want to go in there and find their son and daughter the way I found my son on many occasions. In despair, devastated, in pain, crying out, begging me to take him home, telling me how he's been beaten, how he's been restrained. And I said, I got it all recorded. From now on, it's not going anyplace. And that's why I said, I am going to put this stuff out here, but I'll let God do the rest, because God will have to be the one to bring him back home. But that's why I told that nasty investigator, that racist investigator, I said, now you go back and tell all your buddies that. And I said, if you got any problem with it, why don't y'all sue me? Just come here and just come on out and say we're gonna sue you for lying on us and saying that because I could prove that racist. I said, because I bet they don't tell not one white parent that. I said, I know they're not telling a white parent that. No debate. So on this particular recording that was recorded at Columbus Developmental Center, which is a state of Ohio owned and operated intermediate care facility for the mentally retarded. They call them developmental centers, and it's probably about 7 of them around the state, and Columbus has one of them. And my son was actually illegally committed there. He should not have been illegally committed there because to be civilly committed, you need to be moderately retarded. And Marquis is not moderately retarded. He's autistic, but he's high functioning. But he's not mildly retarded. And at that time, they had a state psychologist that turned out to be corrupt, because he didn't say this in court, but he said it on paper. And I got the documents where he said Marquis should not be committed over at CDC because he didn't have that lower level of functioning that is supposed to be present for a resident. So on this tape, Marquis was telling me his room was cold. I asked him, was it cold or warm? And he said his room was cold, because I had conversations with the terrible, corrupt, evil superintendent about the room being cold, because he's, a lot like me when it comes to, cold air and cold rooms or drafts and stuff. And I said, this is too cold for my son. And then he started having sniffles or cold symptoms. So he actually started to get a cold from being in that cold room because of the cold air and stuff. So, and I'm going like, what? I mean, I love my son like they love their kid. Of course I love him. I care about him. I'm going to ask about him. I'm concerned about, and it's almost like, well, since I'm a black mother, I don't love Marquis as much as the white mothers do, so they think they could treat him any kind of way, and I don't care, or it just shows how racist white people, which is very sick and evil, how, they don't think nothing of black people. We're not worth anything, as individuals, as people, as women, as men, as a mother, as a father. Like I'm supposed to just keep my mouth shut and not say a word, why they can raise hell about anything. And people wonder why this country going to go down and why they got Trump in there. I said, because God done had enough because it's been so hypocritical. And this is the first place to sit up and try to talk about human rights and stuff and talk about other countries and stuff. But you ain't fooling God. And God has taken his hand off of this country. It's just a matter of time. Of course, as a Christian, I believe that the end times and everything that Jesus talked about in the Olivet Discourse, the Olivet Prophecy, is going to be a global thing. It's not going to just be the Middle East or China or, North Korea. It's going to be a global thing. But this country, God has protected it so much. I said, but it's been just so wicked, And with the racism has never went away. It's always been a problem since 1776. And, you got all these people, especially white people, in denial about it, which I could care less. I said, because that's why you got different outcomes and stuff. And, God, it's never been really a Christian nation. There's been a lot of religions practiced here, but Christians that are claiming or fake Christians that go to church and are claiming to be Christians, or the United States says, in God we trust. So it didn't say Buddha or Confucius, it said God. So even on the coins, it's trying to say that it has a relationship with God, but it's never really had a relationship with God. All the slavery, all the hate and the biases and doing things that are against God's design, as far as families and marriage and all that kind of stuff. It's never been a Christian nation. And it's going to go down for the hypocrisy, because that's a lot of hypocrisy when you talk about in God we trust and all of that. And this country's been the way it's been since the very inception of it, July the 4th, 1776. But anyway, back to this. This tape is from a visit at Columbus Developmental Center, State of Ohio operated and owned ICF MR facility on November 24th, 2012. And Marquis was admitting that his room was cold. And then he tells me he misses playing games with me and that he's been missing me. And then he said he had no business being in jail because when he was at his apartment, he actually got arrested. And they should have never took him to jail. And the first time they took him to jail, and I wasn't there, there was a staff member that took him to jail, and he suffered like anything. Then they let him out because they realized that because he was crying. And he even says on this tape, I don't have that part recorded, he said he was scared to death. And why did they take him to jail? Because he's autistic. Now remember, he's autistic. And so he crying for me. And it was just awful. I was trying to get down to him and they wouldn't let me see him. And I told the nurse he's autistic and these are medications that he's on. It was just awful. I mean, the hell my sons have been through. And I got it all recorded. Ain't nobody can deny it. I said, because I got it recorded or pictures. I got the evidence to prove that it ain't just me and Marquis's imagination and that I'm just full of hot air. And so he was asking me about that. And then, why he was taken to jail. I said, you didn't do anything wrong. They just took you to jail because you ran outside and all this kind of stuff. And I don't have nothing against police officers. There's been some wonderful police officers that I have dealt with. And then there's been some terrible police officers, that because of their lack of training, their personalities and stuff. Because like I told that one officer, because Marquis was having a meltdown, and he was all scared and spitting. He thought Marquis was trying to spit at us. I said, no, he's autistic. He's not trying to spit at you. Well, I knock him down. I said, well, then you don't need to be working with people. I said, because you got to treat people according to what they're doing. Then he got mad at me for saying that. I said, I'm trying to help you to work with my son. To be able to interact with him appropriately and successfully. And you're talking about you knock him down, pull out a gun and stuff like that. Yeah, I filed a complaint against him too. I said, because he's a loose cannon. He don't need to be on the police officer force or the police force or whatever you want to call it. I said, because there are differences in people. Every time you go up to a so-called person, they got differences in their, their age. It's just like dealing with a child versus an older person, or somebody that's blind, or somebody that's got a disability. Or, you need to recognize those differences in people and interact with them accordingly instead of trying to be big bad police officer. I was appalled. I said, well, I hope you don't shoot him or knock him down and stuff like that. I said, because he's autistic. He's not trying to get back at you and be mean and stuff like that. But you ain't going to listen to me? So, but there's been a couple that have been rotten eggs like this particular police officer. But, I've dealt with some ones that were wonderful. And, I would tell myself, well, my son is autistic, so don't. But I had problems in the hospitals when Marquis was in the hospital. The security guards in there. I said, because you're not going to make him, that's not going to deter him. You're going to make him escalate. Because you're dealing with a autistic person, which is entirely different from dealing with somebody like me, And they get mad at that. They look at you like, well, you don't tell us what to do and stuff, but you don't know anything about autism. That's why I'm telling you. I know you don't know nothing about autism because, by the way, you interact with my son. You can't just bum rush him. And then I said, well, why would you get mad and get offended when somebody that knows about that autistic person and the person, the things, other personal things about him, is trying to tell you and help you so that you could de-escalate the situation? Why would you get offended by that? And like I said, I got a lot of things on tape. A lot of things on tape. But, he asked me why he was taken to jail. Then he told me he missed playing Blow Me Down. And that's a game we like to play. We have but he misses me because there's all kind of games and things that he would like to play with me. But then he got hobbies of his own, things that he likes to collect. And he's not getting none of that. I said, he has had no rights whatsoever. None. And that's why I said, I'm not going to stand up and say no life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and justice for all, because it's not true. And it hasn't been true since, here we go, 1776. And it's definitely not been true in my life, and especially my son's life. I said, you think he got life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? He can't even see his own mother that he adores and loves? But I said, these people are not going to speak for Marquis. I said, they don't need to. I said, I got it all on tape. And I said, I listened to it, and sometimes it's just so hard to listen to them. But I have to because I'm uploading them and putting them on the audio tape page. I said, I bet there ain't none of them will want to go in there and see their son and daughter, whether they're disabled or not, the way I've seen Marquis. The signs and symptoms of abuse and neglect. And then when he would be telling me that, my heart is ripping in two. That's why I said, I'm a victim in this thing as a mother that loves my child as much as they love theirs. And I want any of that white racist filth, John Kasich, Mike DeWine, Heidi Hughes, Aaron Sanford, Robert Montgomery, Ron O'Brien, come after me. Just come here and let's put the evidence together. They can't do it. That's why those pages is out there. Ain't nothing they can do about it. And those pages are not empty. But I do tell people this. I say I don't have the most recent stuff going on with my son because that's the way they or that's the main reason, the primary reason why they don't allow me to have contact with him is because they know I collect evidence. So I don't have the most recent evidence of abuse and neglect and exploitation. Because that's the way they're doing him. That's the way he's living. He's living in abuse, neglect, and poverty and exploitation. But they know that if they can keep me from seeing him and talking to him, then I can't get that evidence. So I tell people for the first two pages, the abuse and neglect page and the justice page, go to the very beginning. When you go to those pages, don't go to the most recent post. Go to when I first created the page. And there's plenty of evidence. Plenty of evidence. Then the audio tape page is what I'm putting these recordings of my son on. And then I have a YouTube channel as well. And they're just full of all these recordings because I usually upload it to YouTube before I put it on Facebook. And I guess probably 60, at least 60 and counting. And I call them audio videos. They usually don't have videos on them. They're just recordings, audio. But I do have a videotape of the last time I see my son. Now, the last time he was allowed to visit with me was March the 15th, 2015. So we're talking about 3 years ago. And then the last time I actually seen him through my own efforts was July the 8th, 2015, because I waited outside. And that's on videotape. And how that big, fat, nasty, white, racist woman tried to, and you can see her on the videotape, try to make Marquis go off on me. Because when he first seen me, he said, "There's my mom." And he said it happily. And he said it excitedly. He was excited and happy to see me because I was sitting in the car. But they lie on him like they lie on me. And there's some old nasty, racist white gal that works with the Home DD staff. And I got them on tape. And Marquis telling me how they choked him and pulled on his arm. I got him on tape hollering at him. But that's in the year 2015 and 2016. So, mostly 2015, but I ain't got to that yet. I'm still in the year 2012. But she lied and said Marquis ran across the street. And on the videotape, you can see him not running across the street. But the fat, nasty one, racist one, she took her butt across the street, leading Marquis by the arm and tried to get him to go off of me and told him to ask me what I came there for. Now, my son has never said that to me when I visit him. He said it twice, and then he went ahead and said, "I miss you, and I want to, don't leave," and it was trying to get, because, he was on his way to a counseling appointment that was initiated by the U.S. Department of Education because I filed a complaint with them because they were throwing Marquis in the seclusion closet. So the U.S. Department of Education told the school, you need to give him counseling and you need to give him compensatory education. That's how that was initiated. And Marquis had told me that he would be leaving that day at that time. So I waited outside across the parking lot in my car. And when he see me, he said, "There goes my mom." And you can hear it. You can hear the audio and everything. But her nasty racist self, the big fat white lady, took him across the street and was trying to get him to go off on me. And when it didn't happen, she took her fat butt across the street, came right back across the street because she seen Marquis wasn't going off on me. He was telling me how much he loved and saying how much he missed his mom. I said, because he got feelings too. I said, what do they think he is, an inanimate object, that he ain't got feelings? And I said, and it's wrong to think I don't have any. I said, because I'm going to put this stuff out here and ain't none of that racist scum going to say nothing to me about it. I ain't going to get no letter. I said, because that might be God's way of really propelling it out there so the whole world can see what evil, corrupt, racist trash these officials are in the state of Ohio, from the governor on down. But that racist, evil trash that is part of the management at the Home DD staff agency, she said Marquis ran across the street, which is a lie because I got it on videotape. So that's the only videotape I really have of any abuse or assault and neglect. Then I got a couple of videotapes. I got one videotape of Marquis because he could juggle real good, and I had him juggling when I went to visit him over at CDC and stuff. And we got some tapes where we're just reminiscing and you know, just I would comfort him. I love you. Jesus will get you out of here. Jesus is in control. You're wonderful. Because sometimes he say he sucked. Because they used to make him think, and they're probably making him think that way now, that he was some kind of monster or criminal. Because he was like, what did I do to deserve this? You know, to be treated like an inmate. I can't see my mother. You know, they're beating me and everything, laughing at me, making fun of me. And the last tape that I put on there, and I've forgotten about it because there's so many. He had told me that they were trying to make him ejaculate by putting nasty music in his ear. It's on tape. So you'll find that. And I forgot about that. And when I heard that, tears just rolled down my face. I said, the suffering that my son's been in. But Jesus sees it. And he said, vengeance is mine, I will repay. And he made sure I found out that he took attorney David Belinki's life off of this planet. Because that man died unexpectedly. But when he was talking to me on the phone, I felt the wrath of God. I didn't know it was the wrath of God. I just felt heat. But now I finally realized it was the wrath of God. God was very angry with that man. Because God hates arrogance, pride, and he hates people that oppress other people. I said, not only was this man abusive, but he bragged about it. And God, you know, and next thing I know, within a year, that man was fell out at his house. And God made sure I found out about it. No, they didn't call me and tell me. God made me get a newspaper. And I never get the newspaper, but he spun me around Walmart, made me get a newspaper. When I opened up the paper to read it, including an obituary, his name was right at the top of the list. And the Lord said, vengeance is mine, I will repay. And he said this is a warning to his friends. Now that happened, I think, back in 2014, I think, or something. Because he's the one that lied and filed to get my guardianship away from me for the system. Because remember, all these people are friends. They all network. They all go along to get along. They're all cowards. Ain't nobody going to stand up and be a man or a woman and say, look, this is racism. What you're doing is wrong. Because you're not really supposed to separate a family unless there's dysfunction or abuse or neglect in the family. I said, well, I've been a nurse, a RN for over 30 years. I doubt if I could practice nursing if I was abusing and neglecting my son. But they don't say that. They say I escalate my son. I said, I know they don't tell them white parents that have autistic sons and daughters. I know they don't tell them. And they had meltdowns. I said, some of them had meltdowns so bad they had to put helmets on. Or you can go to the autistic message boards and threads, and you can read from the parents that, you know, they have all kind of injuries. I'm talking about the parents and the siblings, black eye scratches and stuff. So when they're having all these violent, aggressive meltdowns, you think they're telling them white parents that you're escalating them? You're the cause of that? You better believe they're not telling them that. But why are they going to tell me? So that's your racism. Or, you know, when you got people practicing racism, because they're going to treat and tell the black person, same circumstances, but they're going to tell the black person, treat them negatively and tell them something more negatively and not support them versus the white people. And I ain't going to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. When I see the flag, it makes me sick. I ain't going to burn it, but I ain't going to stand up for it. So anyway, let me go ahead and let you hear this. And like I said, I'm still in 2012. I also have a audio tape that's horrendous because on December the 1st, 2012, God allowed me to see a thug punch my son in the chest. He actually went up to him, punched him in the chest, grabbed him by his shirt collar, and then threw him in a state van. And by the way, you can hear him on the tape when I said, oh, you hit my son. But I wasn't standing real close to Marquis. I was standing off. Jesus had me right in the right position so that I could see my son and this boy, but he couldn't see me because they called him over to do something with my son. But the girl forgot to tell him that I was there. So he walked up there, and it was dark. That's why I don't have it on videotape. I got it on audio tape. And I bet to this day that boy probably wish he had pulled his car up closer, because he turned the headlights on, but he was trying to be slick. He didn't want his car all the way up. And I guess it's something that they learn to do, you know, if you're going to abuse or beat on a resident, you know, just make sure that you can't be seen. And it was dark, but he parked his car way back, but he had the headlight on. So it wasn't showing on our area. And I wasn't that far away from Marquis, but I wasn't right close up to him. And he walked right up to my son and punched him in the chest. And you can hear my son scream and me saying, "Oh, you hit him." And you can hear him, "I didn't hit him. I punched. I didn't hit him. I didn't punch him. I grabbed him by the shirt." Now he did admit to grabbing him by the shirt, which is assault in itself because it's unwanted. "No, I grabbed him by the shirt and stuff." And I was so upset. But you got to be smarter than the devil. And so I didn't jump on his back and beat on him. But, you know, I tried to get the highway patrol to file a report, and they didn't do it. The state, because they're the state police. CDC told them not to do. Oh, it's just so much corruption. I said, and I know God can use me and my son. But I know Marquis, he will use Marquis mightily. Because Marquis ain't going, there's a reason for everything. I said, he ain't going through this stuff because God thinks he deserves it. I said, but God will use people that other people will count out and don't think you're nothing. And God said, I'm going to use that. And I'm looking forward to being a part of that. Because ain't nobody can say that Marquis ain't lived this stuff. That's where I come in. Because I done recorded the evidence. I done got the evidence to prove that what I'm saying is true. And so that is on audio tape, and it's horrendous because Marquis is screaming, he hit me, and screaming for his mother and stuff. And I said, that's wrong. But you remember how Jesus was treated. He was treated worse than a criminal. Yet he was without sin, and the Bible says he numbered with the transgressor. So Jesus knows all about injustice and being treated like a dog and all the suffering and stuff like that. But it turned out for our good because he attained salvation for us, and then came back 3 days later. It wasn't no surprise to him. Calvary wasn't no surprise. He said he was going to do this thing for us, and he did it, and he conquered the grave and death. And this is going to turn out for me and Marquis is good, because God can take something and make a great big testimony and message out of this. Because I have to give him all the praise, honor, and glory. That's the only reason why I've been able to keep going. And for my son to come out of this. Because he's been around some people that have treated him like dog. Like he's just nothing. And it's God that's protecting him. And he's out with him now. So that gives me my hope and my gratitude to God. But he said, I'm going to take this thing and make it the way I want. He said, because they don't limit my power. You know, I'm not happy with how they had treated your son. Because he's my child. He's your son, but he's a child of God. He said, but I'm going to take it and use it. He said, pray for him. He said, you need to pray for him. Because you don't want God mad at you. And he's awfully angry. And I read the Bible a few times all the way through. And God is awfully angry at sin, but he's awfully angry at when you're mistreating helpless people. I said, that's like mistreating a child. The disabled people are disabled, you know. And God is not happy with it. And, you know, you wonder why some people fall out and they're dead and gone or something happened to their family and stuff, because God just takes them off the planet. But he deals with people in a lot of different ways and stuff. But, you know, when God get angry with you and so at times, he just, certain times he'll just take a person and just do them like they did David Belinkie. Just kind of just put their lights out. Then there's other ways that he deals with it. And, you know, and that's why I told that old nasty investigator, I said, because you can't outbox God. And I said, you all are in the ring with God, with Jesus, because I consider Jesus as God in the flesh. He's the Word of God. And I said, so you can't outbox God. And I said, he is in the ring with me and Marquis, but he's in our corner. He's not in your corner. I said, because my son ain't done nothing to you people, neither have I. And I'm not going to toot my own horn in this stuff because I'm leaning on God. Just like I've learned to lean on him for everything else that I have. All the many blessings that he's given me. But I'm leaning on God. So I'm not going to toot my own horn. But he knows because he knows I'll get evidence. And maybe that's the reason why he chose me as a mother to go through this thing. Because as a mother, I have suffered. Not as bad as Marquis, but I have suffered as well. So anyway, let me go ahead and let you listen to this. And this was on a micro cassette, so it's not that clear. So I apologize for that. But you'll hear Marquis tell me his room is cold. He missed playing games with me. He's been missing me. He had no business being in jail. He wanted to know why he was in jail. Because, he wanted to talk about things with me. This is my mom. She loves me. I love her. Why not? I said, he can vent to me and tell me anything he wants. I said, but maybe if you animals, you savages, didn't treat Marquis like an animal, when I come over there, maybe he wouldn't be in distress and telling me all the things that y'all have done wrong to him. Because my son has never told me, I had a wonderful day and I had fun with the staff. He's never told me that. All he's ever told me was abuse and neglect. Now, how would you feel if you're a mother, father, sitting there that love your child and you're hearing this? But it's recorded. That's why I said Mike DeWine and John Casey and Aaron Sanford and Robert Montgomery and Ron O'Brien, all that racist trash can't say nothing to me. Can't Rob Capaldi, D. Michael Snow, Matthew, all that trash. Ain't none of them gonna say that I'm lying. I got too much evidence. And not only have they lied on Marquis, but they lied on me a lot too. Because I've been slandered and they got my guardianship away by saying that I wouldn't consent for my son to have evaluation. I'm a nurse. I ain't got nothing with problems with evaluation assessments. I do them myself. But he had already had a consent sign already on the books for him to do evaluation. And Franklin County Board of Developmental Disability, that ain't nothing but pure trash over there. Every last one of them. The ones I've dealt with. And I got them on tape too. How they lie on you, and they lie on Marquis. So he's been a victim of slander too. They mislabel him as mildly retarded. So instead of being autistic. I mean, that's the reason why he had such a problem over there, because they didn't know how to deal with autistic residents. Because MR and autism is about as different as a letter of an alphabet. But anyway, here you go. I'm going to let you listen to this before I run out of time. Not very clear, but you'll hear him say the room is cold, that he missed playing games with me, and that he's been missing me. He said he had no business being in jail. He was wondering why he went to jail, and he was telling me he missed playing blow me down game with me, and I miss playing. I miss him so much, and Jesus knows my feelings, and he said he'll take care of the situation in his own way and in his own time. But he said in the meantime, I'm with your son. Don't forget that. He said they can stop you, but they can't limit me. And pray for him, because I'll get to the point where I just wipe it and expose it for what it is. And that's what he told me. I'll wipe it clean. I'll settle the case and expose it for what it is. So here we go. So I'm going to play this again. You can. So, you hear him saying, I asked him what's his room, because we were talking about it being cold outside, and he said it was cold, and I said, is your room hot or cold? But I had already told them, a few days ago that his room was too cold for him, and he said it was cold, and then he said he missed playing, you know, uh, games with me, and he's been missing me. And then he said he had no business being in jail. And then, he asked me about that. And I didn't really keep that on the recording. Because I record the whole conversations with my son. And so we talked about that. And then he was saying he missed playing, you know, blow me down with me and stuff. Because, that's a real funny game that we play. And and they always try to make like me and Marquis was dysfunctional. The black family, they got dysfunction and the mother ain't no good and she's unfit and all this kind of stuff. And I said, me and my son had a wonderful relationship and we still do. But you can hear these tapes. I said, you'll never hear him tell me to get out of there, or he begged me to bring him home. That's what he did over and over again. Told me how much he missed me and loves me and everything. And they were trying to make our family dysfunctional because we're black. Now, that's how sick racism is. I said, he's even missing his companionship with me in the games that we would play. But anyway, there you have it. Look for it on the YouTube channel. It'll be on the audio tape page. If you go to the justice page and abuse and neglect page, start at the very beginning where I created the page, and you'll see all the evidence. See that I'm not just full of hot air. See how these animals have treated my son like a dog. And look for many more. I'm going to try to see if I can try to get these things done every 2 weeks and stuff. Because the last one, where they restrain him and beat him and try to make him ejaculate, because my son ain't never heard that word from me or anybody else and stuff, and abuse and all that. That was, I think that tape is the last tape on the audio tape page. So just go to them. Jesus is Lord. Marquis, I love you. I miss you. I think about you every single day. My heart is just there with you. I know Jesus is with you. And for that, I'm grateful. Because he's the only one that can turn this thing around. He's the only one that can give us peace and hope. And he's protecting you. And he loves you just as much as I love you. Even more. And that he will make it right. Because you're going to be used and I'm going to be used the way the Lord wants us to use. But he's got the final say. It's all in his hands. And when he says the date has come for me to come and get you, and you coming back home to live with me, I would be there. Because I know that he's already got the thing handled. And he will make this thing right. I love you. I'm proud of you. I miss you so much. And I look forward to having you here in this house with me and living the life that Jesus wants us to live. And that's the end of this recording. And thanks for listening.